Good evening. Welcome to Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 2nd, 2026. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present for this evening's meeting are at City Hall and on Zoom. We also have staff from the city attorney's and the city clerk's office, as well as the city planning department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note, we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion of the meeting. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. If you simply want to watch the meeting, we encourage you to stream it on our city's YouTube channel. You can access it at meridiancity.org/live. With that, can we begin with roll call, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Stoll?
Here.
Commissioner Gelsomino?
Present.
Commissioner Pro?
Here.
Commissioner Sandoval?
Here.
And Chairperson Lorcher.
Here. The first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. There are no changes to tonight's agenda. Could I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So seconded.
It's been moved and second to adopt tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is to approve the minutes of the planning and zoning meeting from June 18th. May I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Seconded.
It's been moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this time, I would briefly like to explain the public hearing process. We will open each item individually and begin with a staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and our unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward and present their case and respond to staff's comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called only once during public testimony. Their clerk will call names out individually for those who have signed up on our website in advance to testify. You may come up to the microphones in chambers or you'll be unmuted on Zoom. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on screen and our city clerk will help you run the presentation. If you have established that you are speaking on the behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who've signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who wish to testify. If you wish to speak on a topic, you may come forward in chambers or on Zoom, press the raise hand button. Or if you're listening on a telephone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you're listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a phone, please be sure to mute those extra devices so we don't experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you are finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and to respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss, hopefully make final recommendations or approvals or recommendations to City Council as needed. With that, we're going to open item number H 2026-0017, request a conditional use permit for 7 Brew Coffee at 3570 East Fairview. Just to let you know, we did discuss this at our last meeting and we are at a stalemate, but now we have a full commission. So hopefully we will be able to decide on this. Commissioner Perot and Commissioner Sandoval, do you feel comfortable that you were able to read the minutes in the application, that you'll be able to respond on this application? Commissioner Sandoval?
Madam Chair, yes.
With that, we'll begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. As you mentioned, this was continued from the last Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. I just want to get the commissioners that are present tonight oriented with the site a little bit and then get into the details of why it was continued. So the site does consist of 0.64 acres of land currently zoned CG, and it's located at 3570 East Fairview Avenue. It was a lot and block that was subdivided with the Center Cal subdivision back in 2011. At the time that this property was annexed, there is a DA that showed a building on this particular lot. And as staff noted in the staff report, it is consistent with the concept plan that is approved for that overall development of the village at Meridian. The applicant is wishing to develop the site, again, seeking a conditional use permit for a tier 2 drive-through. I believe the commission knows this, but the building itself, or 7 Brew, is actually defined as a restaurant use, which is principally permitted in the commercial zoning district. The drive-through is accessory to the principally permitted restaurant use. And because there is one ordering point, one menu window, one stacking lane, and an escape lane, this is classified as a tier 2 drive-through, which requires approval from this body. So as I mentioned, and as the Madam Chair mentioned, quite a bit of deliberation at the last hearing, and there was 4 commissioners present, and it ended in a tie. So ultimately, this was continued. But as part of your motion, you did ask the applicant to come back and bring some additional information forward. The applicant does have a presentation for you, so they did provide that additional queuing analysis that you requested, and they will share that with you in their response this evening. So you wanted them to provide queuing data for other stores in cities of similar size to Meridian and located on major corridors. You wanted them to pursue other options for village parking in front of the restaurant to allow for overflow parking, see if there was an opportunity to do that. And if you can see my cursor here, I think the intent was to secure some additional parking either here in front of the store or along the parking in front of the buffer here for additional overflow parking. So if queuing does happen on the site, there will be an opportunity for those cars to pull forward and get their product and move out of the stacking lane to avoid additional congestion on the site. I know one of the commissioners, Commissioner Smith, had brought up some discussion about restricting the hours of operation and making sure that it didn't compete with other businesses in the shopping center. So that's something that's certainly within your purview to further restrict the hours of operation as part of the CUP process. And then, as I mentioned, we had to continue it because we had a tie. And you guys wanted to make sure to get this one to the finish line. So as I mentioned, I did add one additional item to the slide that you didn't see. You did see this particular graphic at the last hearing, but I thought it was beneficial to get you guys up to speed. They showed their queuing per the specific use standards for drive-throughs. They do have to show the amount of vehicles they can stack on the site. So the graphic on the left does that, but also you wanted to see a mitigation plan for when they open the store, and it's a popular store. It could be very popular. So you wanted to see if they would address some interim measures to address the newness of the store. And then hopefully over time, it will go back to a normal operating process. So this was the exhibit that the applicant shared with you, showing you how they plan to route additional vehicles on the site if it is very popular during its opening, and not allow vehicles to stack on the primary drive aisle into the shopping center. Again, staff is recommending approval, and I'll either stand for questions or allow you to get to the applicant so that they can share their findings with you.
Would the applicant like to come forward? Or are they on Zoom?
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, looks like they're on Zoom.
If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. Can everyone hear me correct?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Mary Gansert, address 18215 72nd Avenue, Kent, Washington, 98032.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for having us. I want to say that, thank you. And is there a way maybe I could share my screen just so I can kind of drive it and change the slides and not.
Yes, we'll promote you to panelist.
Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you so much for being so flexible with allowing some of our team to be virtual and some of our team to be there in the chamber. So I kind of wanted to run through and let everyone know who is here this evening on behalf of the Semru application. So myself, Mary Gansert, I'm the project planner with Core States Group, who's a civil engineer. Anthony Merlino is virtual as well. He's our senior civil project manager. Online with us, we also have Bill Burton, principal with Fair and Pierce. They are our traffic consultant, here to answer any traffic study related questions. There in the chambers with you, we have Russ Orsi. So he's VP of Construction and Forza Development. They are the developer for Seven Brew, especially with their expansion here out to the west. There in person as well, we have Brenton Jackson with the Harmon Group. Notably, they're known for their KFC franchisees, and they will actually be a Seven Brew franchisee. Brenton will be one for this particular store in the city of Meridian. And then we also do have members of the Center Cal property management team. I believe Hugh Crawford is there. We've been working very closely with them on making this project come to life. So they are also available and may come up to speak just to say a few words once I'm kind of done going through some additional data. So as Bill had mentioned, kind of the 3 points we wanted to add additional insight on would be the hours of operation, the stacking queuing, as well as any traffic data we can present. So I'll hit on the 24 hours quickly. Our intent is to not pursue the 24 hours. We want to pursue just our standard 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. hours of operation. I think that will help alleviate any concerns since the shopping center typically doesn't open till 10 or 11. And even with the gym opening earlier, I think that will alleviate a lot of traffic and just queuing concerns. And then any after hour concerns that hopefully the commission had. I'll jump into next kind of the stacking and queuing. So in our last commission, obviously we presented that we have the main drive lane. So that has 7 cars, which meets the 6-car code. Since that hearing, we have been coordinating with property management, and we have been able to allocate 6 additional parking spaces specifically for the use. So they're located here kind of at the exit of the drive-through. They will have signage to delineate that it is kind of 10-minute customer pickup delivery so that customers know they can use these spaces, and people using the shopping center for long-term shopping will not be able to utilize those spaces. We do still have the bypass lane as an emergency overflow. I'm going to go through some stacking data that will show that we don't anticipate to use that on a regular basis. It will truly be a bypass lane, perhaps maybe just some of the beginning opening, but we should be able to contain our queue with cars in the main lane and the 6 parking spaces. I'm going to show just kind of high level zoom out. I know everyone knows the shopping center, but most of kind of the stacking queuing will happen in this area here with being able to utilize these spaces. Kind of the stacking we were showing here as worst case scenario will probably be less than this. So with Seven Brew opening earlier than the rest of the center, as I'd mentioned before, it is likely that most of the employees coming to work will probably utilize some of the spaces right in front of the store. So any stacking concerns that are happening here won't impact any customers coming to either the gym or the shopping center. And it really will only kind of be more of a limited area. So there are plenty of room for cars to circulate the site. There's multiple access points to the drive aisles to circulate and be able to find parking and go around drive aisles. So our intent is to obviously impact as little as possible of the rest of the shopping center during our operations. I'll dig into a little bit of traffic data. So we talked briefly at the last hearing about pass-by traffic. So with data that's been taken by a Kinley and Horn study across a few sites, most pass-by traffic will generally be at about 72%. So again, pass-by traffic is considered someone is already on this roadway. They're going from point A to point B. They happen to be passing by Seven Brew, so they will make a stop on their way. The shopping center being a destination itself we anticipate that most of the traffic is already there. And so they will just utilize the drive-through, get their 7 Brew, and either go to shopping or go home. So that leaves about really only 28% of actual new traffic coming for the 7 Brew. And as we had previously talked as well, as new stores open up in the Meridian market, that 28% for this particular site will decrease as people are able to go to other locations and kind of alleviate that little pressure point. So we do not anticipate a large amount of new traffic being generated to this center and to this intersection. Next slide here I have starts to break down a little bit of peak hours and gets into details of some of the data we have in the stores. So the peak hours of operation for 7 Brew are the morning hours. They're that 7 to 9 or 7 to 10 a.m. The next small peak that we have is kind of what they call that afternoon slump. So it's more of kind of like the 3 to 5 or 4 to 7. So the data we have here shows trips coming in 7 to 10 a.m. and then trips coming in 4 to 7 p.m. So I will caveat this with saying we do not have detailed data on the 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Any cities that have requested traffic studies have never requested that late afternoon time and evening time, just because that's not really typical peak hours at all for coffee drinkers. And so really, these are the 2 peak times that we find. And what this is showing is 160 overall trips in the morning, 67 overall. And if you kind of look, it's a little bit hard to see in the breakdown even further, it's really 81 plus or minus trips in and kind of those same trips going out. And again, it's significantly less in that PM peak of the 4 to 7 based on the Colorado and Texas site data that we found. Okay. We did talk at the last hearing as well, just about putting a little more insight on the stores that we did run data on and tagging on just population. So one point I do want to make is that population doesn't always correlate exactly to queuing. It is definitely a metric that we can use, but some high populated cities may have a smaller queue because there are multiple sources, let's say, of coffee shops there versus maybe a small population is going to show a higher queue because they only have just kind of the one source. So it's just one metric to use. It's not a complete picture of what happens, but this kind of breaks down what the cities were like in their populations. What this chart is showing is a max total queue. And what I want to point out is that this is not on a regular basis where this is the max queue. This is data that occurred for very short periods of time, and that was 5 minutes or less across a given period that it was studied. And so the rest of the day is typically much smaller than this. This was just kind of peak hours, what the maximum could be for 5 minutes or less. So then we took some of that data and we put it more in graph form so it's a little bit easier to see. The first couple sites are going to show kind of that 7 to 10 peak time because that is truly the peak time of 7 Brew. So what we're showing here is the green line is just our actual order lane of the 7 cars. The orange represents utilizing the 6 additional parking spaces for the pull forward. And then the yellow symbolizes if we were to utilize the full bypass lane. So this particular site, you can see during the peak times that you would be utilizing kind of the 6 pull forward spaces, and there were very small windows. So you can see kind of, let's say from 8:25 to 8:50, where there could be 1, 2, 3 extra cars utilizing that bypass lane. Another example here, Independence, Missouri, here's kind of the population. Same idea, you can kind of see there's 15 to 20 minute windows where cars would be stacking or using that bypass lane, but everything else would really be contained during that morning peak time within the main lane and the pull forward spaces. And I have a few more just to kind of show. Again, they all kind of represent the same picture. There's kind of the 15-20 minute window at 7, 8, and 9 a.m. where it peaks above the 13 spaces, and we'd utilize the bypass lane for just that short duration. One more here for South Carolina. This one, wouldn't be using the bypass lane. Site in Utah, again, wouldn't be using the bypass lane. Everything's contained through the main lane and the pull forward spaces. And then we do have the 2 sites, one in Texas and one Colorado. So we have the peak morning times. And then we have kind of the next peak, which is that late afternoon, the 3 to 6. You can see here, obviously the morning peak times are higher than the afternoon peak times. Coffee usually equals morning. And so in this scenario, everything would kind of be contained within that original order lane. And then on the Colorado site, same idea. The ratio, you can see morning peak time significantly higher than the afternoon peak time. And so everything's typically contained within kind of that pull forward space and the original spaces. And I'll go back just very quickly to the site plan so just we can look at it operationally. So again, the intent is cars would be stacking here. If car gets their order, they leave. If a car gets their order taken and their order is larger, it's taking longer, employees can direct cars to pull forward to the spaces. If car, let's say 3, 4, and 5 have gotten their order taken and they just want to leave the queue, they obviously just use the bypass lane and free up room here. If car 3, 4, and 5 have gotten their order taken, but they have not received their order yet, and all 6 parking stalls are full, they could also use the bypass lane just to pull forward, and employees can use these 2 sliding doors to come out, deliver the orders in the striping, get the cars out of the bypass, and continue getting cars into the main drive aisle lane. And that's operationally, obviously every scenario is a little bit different, but we would try not to actually utilize the full bypass lane, maybe just portions of it, just to get cars through and out of the main drive aisle. So that was a lot. I will say, I just want to make one kind of closing argument before you have any questions or comments. Obviously, just to recap, we do meet the tier 2 code with the 6 car stack. We have 7. We have the designated bypass lane per code. We did go back and add additional parking stalls for designated pull forward spaces that will be marked. Obviously, with all the data we've seen, we also understand a new opening is usually a lot busier. So it's very common for new businesses to have that initial surge. But that really only typically represents a very temporary period rather than a long-term operating condition. And so once 7 Brew becomes established, the customer traffic will stabilize in a more predictable pattern, kind of like we've seen on these other sites. And so for that reason, we feel it's important for you to evaluate the project based on the expected long-term operations rather than that temporary excitement with the grand opening. And we've been working very closely with the property management team, and we will continue to and have a traffic management plan in place to work through any of those beginning issues that arise. We all want the business to succeed, and we all want the shopping center to succeed and be safe and enjoyable and easy to navigate for everybody. So we're really looking forward to being here in the beautiful city of Meridian, and we really appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
a question for the applicant. Looking at kind of those generation and stacking numbers kind of over those different sites, are these averages? I guess what is the period we're looking at? Is this just a single day? Is this over the course of, could you help me understand how representative these are of the norm?
Sure. So they were taken over multiple days. Again, we focused on the peak hours. So the 7 to 10 a.m. and the 4 to 7 p.m. hours.
And then for these studied locations, did you do any investigation or any research or any number crunching on the actual corridors? Obviously, with trip capture being kind of a significant driver of traffic to the site, do we have any numbers regarding average daily trips, along the corridor that these businesses sit on? Anything like that?
So we don't have that much in-depth data. I mean, all of the sites are a little bit different, but no, we don't have corresponding traffic generation data for each site. This was mostly focused just on the queuing and stacking, and then some of the sites, again, just the trips in and out.
Madam Chair, so for these sites, we have these kind of max total queues. Do you have any numbers for the amount of stacking lanes, the non-emergency stacking lanes and parking spots, et cetera, available at these locations?
So we can take a look, and Bill, I believe, is also on. He's the traffic consultant, as I had mentioned. They were all varied. Some of the sites were smaller sites, so they only really had one stacking lane. Some did have two. It was completely varied. I don't have that data in front of me.
Is there, sorry, just to be clear, is there someone, it seems like they might have?
Mr. Burton's raising his hand so he could
Okay.
possibly answer your question.
Madam Chair, do you want me to allow him to talk now or wait for that testimony?
If that's kosher, that's pretty.
Yep. Mr. Burton, if you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Bill Burton with Fair and Piers. I'm at 100 Pringle Avenue, Suite 600 in Walnut Creek, California. Yeah, I guess the question here is, do we have are there two lanes or are there one lane, and what is the total amount of stacking? The answer to that question is yes. I do not have that. I do not have that answer here on the tip of my tongue, but all of that data is available. And just to answer two previous questions. So the queues that you're looking at here, this is the maximum queue that was ever observed at these sites. So when you see the 24, the 14, the 10, that's the amount of data that's collected is varies. Some days it's 3 days, some days it's like for a whole week. It all depends on what a particular city is interested in looking at. But this number in this table is basically the maximum queue ever observed. So it's fairly conservative. And then on the question of the ADT, again, we have some of that information, not all. I don't have it at my fingertips. All of these sites are located on fairly well-traveled arterial or collector roads, I would say, in kind of similar traffic conditions to that which is present at this site.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I guess to help clarify, and maybe this can be, for information for, when you come back up at the end, what I'm specifically, looking at is, so we saw through these kind of, when we looked at these, column charts, we saw, there's some locations where, we rise above kind of where we would need to be using that emergency lane. Right. There's some locations where that happened maybe once, some locations happen none, some locations it happens somewhat regularly. I'm trying to understand, we have this max total queue. I'm trying to understand for these locations, what that number is kind of relative to the stacking spaces available for these locations. So for Aurora, max total queue is 23. Are there 24, stacking spots or, parts of the places in the queue, or is it 18? And, we can be confident that 7 Brew is able to get through those, extra 5 pretty quickly. That's what I'm looking at, because obviously we have in the code, you're not able to use that emergency lane consistently, because that would be consistent with a tier 3 in Meridian. I'm trying to understand how often that usage would actually be. So I don't know if you have any information on hands, or if that's just, I guess, helpful for later on, but that's specifically what I'm looking for.
Sure. And Commissioner Smith, I unshared my screen just so I can hopefully get you a very quick answer here in front of me by pulling the study. And I do understand your question. I will share that information here in just a minute. But I think with these 6 pull forward spaces, really we're able to capture kind of most of the max queue that we anticipate during the peak hours of that 7 to 9, 7 to 10. And I think that's just something I want to highlight. where that will really be where we see those maximum queues. And hopefully, given the fact that most of the center is still closed, if there is slight spillover kind of into that drive aisle for a very, very short period of time, like we said, it's 5 minutes or less, that is not impacting, people going to park or using those drive aisles for the gym that's open at that time.
I understand that. That's helpful. Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
one question for Bill, as you're listening to kind of this, kind of the discussion of, frequency of maybe having to use that emergency aisle. Does that align with staff's understanding of what could stay within a tier 2 of a couple times per day, or is it something rarer or more common?
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the commission, I think we're in alignment with the applicant on that. I actually like the sound of that. If car 5 or 6 is in the back and they only ordered one coffee and they can get it to the customer quicker and they still have that lane open for that car to pull out, to me, that just helps them operate the drive-through more efficiently. So I think the first time I've kind of heard someone say they've used their bypass lane that way, or seen them do that, because I've been to many other coffee franchisees and I haven't gotten that opportunity to do that. Usually you're stuck in that queuing and you wait until you get to the window and get your order. So the fact that they can accommodate that, and I appreciate the fact that the applicant got the overflow parking as well, I think that is going to certainly help alleviate that escape lane being used more than it should be.
And so that would be the occasion, a few handful of times per day would still stay under the threshold for a tier 3. Is that?
I would say so, yes. I don't think staff would have any concern with that.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Pearl?
just want to reassure the applicant that I have read through everything actually twice and watched the video from the last hearing. So I think I'm pretty up to date on this. Could you pull up the site plan again? I have some questions about the actual flow of an individual vehicle through the site. It looks like most vehicles will be heading north in that entrance there and then make a right into the site, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a little bump out there that says it exists, that's asphalt that exists, I assume, for access to the waste. Is that raised or is that flat?
It is not. That's just a concrete hatch, so it's just flat.
It's flat. Okay, so vehicles can drive over that.
Yes.
Okay. And then they continue east and then they make a right and then they make another right here.
So if they're coming through the main drive aisle, right, they go into the site, they make a right and then make another right, correct?
Okay. So the vehicle that enters the lane, is that a really sharp right that they're going to have to kind of swing around towards the vehicles parked to the east to get into that lane? There is a coffee shop here in Meridian where that has to be done, and the vehicles consistently take the planter out and they've destroyed the curb. And it's really hard to get into that lane, and it actually causes stacking problems into the parking lot. So I'm just curious how that flow is actually going to happen around there, because it seems like it's a very sharp turn.
Sure. And this particular island actually gives us a little more radius. So a car is able to go ahead and make the turn and get into the lane. And one thing I want to point out, I know in the picture, it kind of looks like, a small car, but this truck turning template is designed for like an F-150 truck. So this accounts for a pretty big car. So it's a little bit deceiving when you look at the picture where it just looks like a small car, but this anticipates a pretty big car being able to make the turn. And we have run truck turns and they are still able to clear that island to get in.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have Russ Orsi. Brenton Jackson.
Hi, if you could state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
Sure. Brenton Jackson.
Oh,
I-
move the microphone a little closer to you. Thanks.
Brenton Jackson, 595 Millage Drive, Suite 106, Campbell, California.
Okay.
I represent the operator who will be operating at this
Okay.
site. We currently have one other open stand that is in Denver. It is not the Aurora stand that was referenced earlier. It is actually in Denver proper. We have been operating it for 2 months, and I pulled our recent traffic data from last week. We had one visit last Thursday that was longer than 3 minutes. And for most of the hours, all of our visits were less than 1 minute. So Commissioner Smith, you were asking earlier how quickly we could get folks through. I think we can get folks through very quickly, and that is certainly one of our operational goals as well as one of the Seven Brew corporate operational goals. So it doesn't help us. We don't want folks to come and hang out with us. We want them to get their coffee and move along. They're a lot happier after they get the coffee.
I'm sure. In regard to you said Denver proper, correct? So is it in a similar situation where it's in kind of a destination mall type thing where there's other restaurants or drive-throughs surrounding the business?
It is in a Costco development.
Okay,
And so certainly the Costco drives a lot of traffic, and not as much in the morning because they aren't open. It would actually be very similar to here. And they are looking at adding additional restaurants and drive-throughs to that to that parking lot because we haven't been a problem for them and their parking.
okay. Any other questions for this? Yep. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have Hugh Crawford.
Hello, Mr. Crawford, if you can state your
Hi.
name and address for the record.
Hugh Crawford, 3597 East Monarch Sky Lane, Meridian, Idaho.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. My name's Hugh Crawford. I'm the Vice President of Property Management with Center Cal Properties. I've been managing the Village at Meridian since 2012 when it first opened. I'm very, involved in the traffic and the parking and the impact that the shopping center has on the neighborhood. We're very passionate about making sure we're a good neighbor. And so when we're looking at this pad on what we wanted to bring to the Village at Meridian, we're very conscious about the demands that our other tenants had for parking and the flow in the parking lot. And we strategically selected this tenant because of two reasons. One, it's a very low impact parking tenant. They're a drive-through concept. So there's not a restaurant where people are coming and parking for an hour and eating and taking up a parking stall. It's not an office tenant which is another concept that we're going to put where people park in a parking stall for 6-7 hours a day. Very low impact. I don't know if anybody is planning on parking, maybe 1 or 2 cars a day would park and walk up and get a drink. And then the timing of the flow we consciously said, well, a coffee shop would be ideal because their demand is in the morning. The demand for our parking is low in the morning, except for some gym users. And then as the shopping center starts picking up, the coffee shop demand balances out and tapers off towards the afternoon and the evening, which is when the Village at Meridian hits its peak. So we strategically went out and marketed and merchandised this site for a concept like Seven Brew. And they're a great brand that is very responsible and understanding of what is being asked. And we've had a lot of conversation with them about working very closely to create a plan. I'm sure you're all aware when we opened In-N-Out, it was a huge demand. We worked tirelessly for months with the tenant, with the city, Meridian Police Department to create a strategy and a plan that worked flawlessly. No impact to city streets. The parking in the middle of Christmas and December worked fabulously. Flow continued. We continued to have great sales. It shows that Center Cal and our tenants work closely to come up with a very strong plan and a very strong strategy to make sure we're not impacting others. And Seven Brews is on board with that. We'll make their grand opening impact very minimal and work with them to continue, make sure that they're a great tenant and meets the needs of the shopping center and the surrounding community.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any questions or?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, so I had one question is specifically regarding kind of what I tend to see in that area, kind of in the evening hours. I know this is the In-N-Out and kind of the radiating out from there. seems to be a good kind of magnet for high school age kids to come and hang out in their trucks, et cetera, which I don't know what the line between loitering and third spaces are, but I'm generally okay with it. But I've seen times where like there's circulation is being limited because of there's cars that are gathering or people are stopping in the middle of the drive aisle to have a conversation, et cetera. And I see a lot of that around here, this location. I guess, are there plans? I'm happy to see these 6 kind of parking spots being dedicated. What does kind of enforcement look like on that? How do you kind of balance making sure people feel welcome to visit the center while keeping, traffic flowing, especially during those peak hours?
How is like the impact of in and out radiating out into this area?
For other clients and for the rest of the rest of the locations nearby, how do you kind of manage keeping traffic flowing?
Through use of our security, communicating with if we have a no loitering, if you're not, visiting one of our businesses, then we ask you to move on. So kids can't just come and sit and hang out in front of In-N-Out unless they're dining at In-N-Out. And we've worked closely with Meridian PD, and if we have a problem, Meridian PD comes and helps and support keeping the parking lot free of loitering. We don't just let car clubs hang out. We don't just let groups of kids hang out in the parking lot. We have them move on, or if they're not shopping or dining at one of the businesses at the Village at Meridian. And we've been learning as the traffic at In-N-Out so you may have seen it, but it's also something that's being addressed on a daily basis with increased security patrols in coordination with Meridian PD and keeping cars and not just sitting and gathering.
So you mentioned increasing. Have you found there to be a problem, or have you had trouble enforcing this?
Wouldn't say we have trouble. It's just something we deal with and address it every day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Madam Chair, no one else has signed up.
Is there anyone online that would like to speak? Is there anyone in chambers that would like to speak? Mira, would you like to make any other comments in regard to testimony this evening?
No, I don't think so. I just want to say again, thank you for kind of listening to the additional facts we have. And again, I just want to point out that our intent is that our peak hours are that morning time, and we will not impact the center as heavily after the 6 p.m. time. And operationally, we're much different than kind of the In-N-Out or, maybe fast food restaurants with food. And so we just have very quick turnaround times, and we want to be a good neighbor, and the operator and the center will do what they can to keep everything running smoothly and not impede traffic or other customers to the shopping center. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Gelsomino?
just one final question for the applicant. Mira, just a quick final question. I know you can't have a full crystal ball, but how soon would a new location, or do you predict a new location would open in the Treasure Valley area or surrounding areas that you mentioned earlier that would alleviate that eventual congestion?
So we are actively looking at sites. I mean, we want to be in the city, as you guys have mentioned before, as well as the commission's mentioned. It's a growing city. We want to be here. So we are actively looking to see what locations are possible. And when we find the right one, we want to be here, as soon as possible.
Thank you.
May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for 7 Brew Coffee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will first admit I am not a coffee drinker. So going through some of these lines, my kids are, so I've been through them, and we have many choices here in the Treasure Valley. I do visit the Village on occasion. It is not in my circle Daily Circle, so I don't always go there, but I think they have been answered the questions that we had asked of them from our last meeting to provide those extra spaces, to be able to show a flow chart of how the traffic is going to go. The fact that they have runners moving their product as opposed to always having to go to the window like some of our other businesses do, I think will definitely help move things through. And especially if they're predicting a 3 to 5 minute window, or even less. You said 3 minutes, I think in Denver was the average time that somebody was in line to be able to get their product, and having that escape lane just in case that they have a big order. So I was in support of this at the last meeting. I'm in support of this again. I think it's a good addition, especially since the hours are staggered with some of the other businesses.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I was not in support of this. And I appreciate the work that the applicant has done. I think there were some questions that I had that are still not fully answered, still some things that maybe give me a little bit of heartburn around, not understanding kind of average daily trips on the adjacent corridor, transportation corridor, and kind of the average queues and understanding kind of those ratios. I think my mind would be more at ease with those, but I do really think the addition of these 6 parking spots, with them being dedicated and enforceable to be 4-7 brew, I mean, that nearly doubles our the allowable stacking space. And I don't think that there was a way that I could have supported that this application without that change. I still do have some nitpicks and some qualms, and I still do have a little bit of unease about this, but I'm much more open to supporting this. And so I think I will be in support of this. I would really, I appreciate the work that the village, has put into keeping circulation flowing in this area, and I would encourage them to keep those efforts up, and to redouble those efforts, because I've seen plenty of gathering in the area. And again, I'm not opposed to, I'm also not a business owner in the area. I'm not opposed to some kids gathering and meeting together in space. That's certainly something that I think is good to see of kids outside of their homes. But I just, the circulation still gives me some pause. I don't think it's enough to oppose this anymore. But just wanted to get that on the record.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Del Semino.
Madam Chair, thank you. I will echo being that I was the only other voice of opposition on the application in the last meeting. I'll echo a lot of the sentiments that my fellow Commissioner Smith voiced tonight. I do appreciate the applicant's efforts and the data, the information, the adjustments and the flexibility that they've shown tonight with these. Of course, I still do have my hesitations as well. My mind has dwelled on the thought of, on 2 thoughts on what is the impact going to be on the citizens and the other visitors and tenants of the village. And then does a drive-through coffee shop make sense in that particular spot? And I've gone back and forth with that, knowing that the property manager and someone who has had more experience and the team at the village has, done their due diligence and has actually marketed for this business to be in this particular location. That does add a little bit more ease of mind, because that means that there has been a strategic plan behind this and the work done behind it. Like I said, the traffic, the congestion still does give me pause, but I also am no longer in a position to be in opposition to this applicant.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Perot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to say thank you also to the applicant for working really diligently on this. I know you do this in front of many different cities, and they all have different expectations and requirements when you come to these meetings. So thank you very much for working on this. I won't repeat what my fellow commissioners have shared because I do absolutely agree with them. I would have significantly more hesitation if it weren't for those additional parking spots, and we'll make sure we put those in as a condition of approval. One thing I wanted to just follow up on with my fellow commissioners is there any thought on whether we sort of give a probation time on the tier 2? Like, do we say, hey, in 6 months, maybe we should reassess whether this is really operating at a tier 2 level? I don't know if that's something that's permitted, and I don't know who exactly would be obligated to do that follow-up. But just was something that came to my mind from the last hearing when our attorney had mentioned, hey, make sure that you offer, if there's concerns, make sure you offer different opportunities or ways to sort of mitigate those versus, voting in denial of an application. So just curious, my fellow commissioners' thoughts on that.
Commissioner Perot, Bill Parsons can answer that question.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, certainly with a conditional use permit, you can control the duration of it. So that's certainly within your purview to say, do X, Y, and Z. Now, do I think 6 months is the right number? I don't know. They still may be in their introductory period at that point. I mean, we could even, I don't know how popular Seven Brew is. This is the first time I've ever heard of this franchise as well. I have younger daughters and they told me it's very popular. So I know it will be a hit with the younger generation, and I'm sure they're going to be very successful here. But again, typically when we do things, if we do limit a use for a while, it's usually, a year, 3 years, 5-year period. I don't know if we need to go to that extreme. Certainly that is within your purview to do that.
How long is this conditional use permit? 3 years?
Well, not necessarily. A conditional use permit runs with the land unless you add a condition of approval that says you come back in another 5 years, or for example, you would say come back in 6 months or 3 years and we'll evaluate you then. You get another conditional use permit. We've done it before. It's rare. It's a tool that we use to allow someone to operate for a finite time because they have other visions for the property. I think the applicant's here for the long term. I don't see them going anywhere if they were to operate. If there were an issue, code enforcement issue, and that stacking lane or that bypass lane became an issue, certainly we could reach out. We have a good relationship with Hugh, no doubt about it. I know I hear his name quite a bit. We would certainly reach out to them and say, hey, how can you help us with this situation? And they would be more than willing to come to the table and figure out a solution to either one, maybe say you need to amend your CUP to go to that tier 3 where you would have a bite at that apple to be a recommending body, and it would move on to city council to convert it from a tier 2 to a tier 3. So I don't want you to think we don't have that ability to do that. We do. But as staff, I would caution you to say, come back in 6 months and let us reevaluate it. I don't think it's going to be enough time.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith?
To kind of opine on that from my end, I think on the tier 3 aspect, I think I'm okay with that being more of a kind of complaint driven, or issue driven kind of process. I'm not opposed to it if we want to say, hey, in 2 years come back. Honestly, if they come back in 2 years and traffic's flowing fine, I'm okay with it being 24 hours. I've never been opposed to, my issue's never been between the hours of 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Those have not been the hours in question for me. So also getting that on the record of, if this is full and fine, I'm okay, if we want to bake in something to say, hey, let's revisit this in 2 years or whatever. I don't feel super strongly about it either way. But I think there's also areas where it could be useful, not just for, saying, does this need to be a tier 3, but also saying, hey, they wanted to do 24 hours. Is that still something they want to do? This could be a good time to review that. I don't know, just food for thought.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Stoll?
I was supportive of the application last time we heard it. I think they met the criteria that the city has laid out. for CUP. I wouldn't be supportive of adding a review period to it. I think if there's a problem, let the enforcement process take care of it, and working with Hugh. And if they wanted to redo the CUP at a later date, then let the staff bring it back at that point in time. But I'm supportive of the application as presented. I think they've addressed additional questions that were raised at the last meeting, and I would vote to move forward.
Commissioner Sandoval, do you have any comments?
Madam Chair, nothing else to add. Thank you.
So with that, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2026-0017.
Seconded.
Well, let me finish.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you paused.
I did, because I was double checking my numbers.
Okay, sorry.
0017 for 7 Brew on the hearing date of July 2nd, 2026 with no modifications.
Seconded.
Madam Chair, just as a point of clarification, I think we would need to modify to require the 6 parking spots.
Is that in the staff report?
Madam Chair, it is not. So I was going to also have you, maker of the motion, add that as a condition, and any direction on the hours of operation if the commission feels like they need to restrict them to 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. And again, if the applicant wanted to go 24/7, they could come back at a later date and apply to amend that condition.
All right, I'll do this again. After considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2026-0017 as presented in the staff report, including the 6 designated overflow parking spaces and the hours of operation from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the hearing date of July 2nd, 2026.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to approve 7 Brew. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to item number 3, 2026-0022, High Desert Veterinary Hospital for conditional use permit on Bell Tower Drive. And we will start with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. As you noted, this is a conditional use permit to operate an animal care facility from an existing 3,200 square foot office building that is under construction or nearing completion. It's going to be getting certificate of occupancy fairly soon. So the site here, it sits on roughly 0.4 of an acre. The land is currently zoned LO, and the property is located at 3147 West Bell Tower Drive. A little history on the site. In 2025, this one lot was subdivided through a short plat process to subdivide the one parcel into 4 parcels. This property sits on one of the 4 platted parcels, which is highlighted here on lot 1, block 1. Also, the certificate of zoning compliance and design review has been approved for the entire site. So not only are there pad sites done, but the applicants also installed all of the parking that you see here and the associated landscaping that's in front of you. So really, this conditional use permit is required because a vet clinic, we define it as an animal care facility, does require a conditional use permit in the LO zone. So again, the building's done. They're just trying to get an tenant to go in there and move in. You can see here on the site plan, with animal care facilities, there are specific use standards that the applicant has to comply with. And really, there's 2. 1, make sure there's no odors, and 2, make sure the animals are in a secure location and being supervised at all times. So you can see here on the exhibit here where there's going to be a small area for the tenant to allow the animals to go out and use the restroom, but the intent is to keep animals inside the facilities at all times and under supervision. Also mentioned to the commission that there is a condition of approval that the applicant is not proposing to have any boarding or kenneling of animals overnight. Again, in the LO zone, not allowed to operate a 24-hour facility. It's prohibited. Hours of operation in the LO zone are between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. And then just as that's on that side note, this facility is also proposed to operate between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. So they're well within that hours of operation allowed in that LO zoning district. Had a chance to look at the public record. There was no public comments on this application. Staff is recommending approval with conditions of approval, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
Would the applicant like to come forward? Are they here tonight? Are you the applicant? Oh. Can you come up for just a second? Not to put you on the spot, but we're going to do that. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
All right. My name is Travis Butterfield at 17438 North Newell Avenue in Nampa at 83687.
Do you have anything to add to the staff report for your application this evening?
No, Mr. Parsons covered it perfectly.
Commissioners, do we have any questions? All right, that's all I needed you for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Tony Nicholson.
Good evening. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Tony Nicholson, 4167 North Montalino Way, Meridian, Idaho, 83646.
Okay,
And on this site plan, I live directly to the right-hand side where the road comes out. I just have a couple of questions and concerns. One, probably for Bill. Was the building soundproof per the CUP requirements?
okay.
And also, he verified the hours, which was my other questions. I'd like to see a restriction on the hours.
What,
Yes.
so the hours are during business hours. What was it, Bill? 8 to?
8 to 6,
8 to
which
6?
which is great
Okay.
because it was 10 PM before, so
Okay, so 8 to 6, and is that Monday through Friday? or
Monday through
Saturday?
Friday
Okay.
is what they proposed.
Okay. So the soundproofing, and you got the answer for your hours.
Yeah, and then my second one is, he mentioned the odor. Did they submit a specialized plan for detailing how they're going to handle clinical and animal waste? How it's going to be stored and disposed of?
Okay,
I think that's part of the CUP requirements.
okay, we'll ask the applicant to address those. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody else signed up to testify?
Madam Chair, we have Ginny Nicholson.
You're good? Okay.
No one else has signed up.
Anybody on Zoom? Can the applicant come forward again? I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Travis Butterfield.
Travis, thank you. Travis, can you address Mr. Nicholson's concern about soundproofing and animal waste?
The animal waste, the biohazard stuff, they do have a plan for that. They have a freezer. They have all the proper necessities. They already work at a vet clinic. They're a husband and wife team. They've been doing this for a lot of years and now they're going out on their own. And so they have everything that is needed for an animal clinic for their specialty.
Okay, and soundproofing as well?
The soundproofing, our standard is that we insulate all walls, every single wall inside the building. So all the animals will be in the back, which is closer to the 10-mile road than the neighborhood. And so it would have to go through several layers of walls to cause any nuisance.
Okay,
So
thank you very much. Any questions? Commissioners, do you have any questions for
Madam Chair.
Travis? Go ahead.
Excuse me, Travis, and quick question. Did we specify if there, sorry, Bill, first for you, did we specify there's any surgical procedures that are done at this particular clinic?
yes, they will do surgeries there.
Okay, perfect.
But
So
they-
with that, you know, I have two dogs and one of them just out of nowhere a couple weeks ago fractured his dew claw. So unexpected, you know, so things happen with pets that are unexpected and especially during surgeries. What is the clinic's plan? Because being that the conditions expressly prohibit overnight boarding and kenneling, what is the clinic's plan if a patient requires emergency overnight care, for example, post-surgical monitoring?
So if they have to do that, they will refer it out to one of the animal hospitals that are 24 hours. They have the ability to board it overnight. Really, they don't want it. If they know up front that it's going to be this big a deal, they will immediately refer them to someone that can take the animal overnight. Otherwise, their intent is to just manage what they can during the day. But yes, stuff does happen, but they refer that out. They don't want to hold any animals at all.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions for Travis? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing on High Desert Veterinary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This seems pretty straightforward. It's an infill project of a group of buildings that are already there that will be retrofitted to support this animal care facility. Sounds like that they're taking the care to make sure that the animals are closer to the busy side of the street, so it impacts the neighborhood less. All the landscaping and site requirements have already been established, so I'm in support of this project.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Perot?
I just want to say that I live very close to a veterinary clinic, and it has a very small parking lot, even more opportunity for animals to get onto the road. But I haven't never seen an escaped animal and I've never had any smell issues. And so as somebody that has that scenario fairly close to my house, I think it's doable in a neighborhood. And I think it adds a lot of benefit to have those kind of services near so many residences in the community.
Any other comments or a motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith?
after considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to approve file number H-2026-0022.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve High Desert Veterinary Hospital. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Item number 4 on the agenda is the Victory Steak Center, which is a request for annexation and a conditional use permit at Victory and Linder. And we will start with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. As you stated, this is a request for annexation and conditional use permit. The subject site consists of 5.81 acres of land currently zoned RUT in Ada County and is generally located at the northwest corner of Victory Road and Linder Road. You can see the future land use designation of this property is low-density residential. The other thing that I would mention as part of tonight's discussion is typically when we have an LDR designated property, residents or the commission council usually typically sees an R2 or an R4 zoning district associated with that designation. However, in this case, churches are not allowed in the R4 or R2 zoning district. So in order for them to annex this in and develop it with the steak center as proposed, the code requires them to request an R8 zone. And that's why you see a little different zoning than what you would typically see in an LDR designated area. As staff noted in the staff report, the church use is still generally consistent with that low density residential. Anticipate residential, but again, through the zoning ordinance, there are allowances for some non-residential uses, which the church is one of those. There's the annexation boundary there, and then their concept plan or site plan required with the conditional use permit. They are proposing to develop an approximately 22,000 square foot LDS Steak Center or church on the site, place of religious worship, I should say. One of the unique things with this project is access. You can see with the overall configuration of the property and with the future plans of a roundabout at that intersection of Linder and Victory, the applicant's location of the church is very limited in how it can be placed. One of the challenges that came with this project was the number of access points that would be allowed for this property. The applicant worked very closely with the Ada County Highway District, and just based on the influence of that roundabout and the limited frontage on Amity Road, sorry, not Amity, but Linder Road, ACHD was very concerned with access. And so they only allowed the applicant, they've only approved one access to this subject property, which is in this located here. So this is the one access point that will serve the church. Also in the applicant's narrative, they did state that they could have up to 300 occupants at this church at any one time. But again, the intent is for it to be mostly Sunday worship. There are some limited activities during the week, but majority activity will be happening on Sundays, which is which is not your most peak travel times, like your typical work week. The applicants also agreed to try to work on traffic mitigation or somebody to help with traffic services on Sunday if that does become an issue, to help move traffic in the area if congestion does become a problem. Staff doesn't anticipate that. I don't think ACHD anticipates that either. Here's the proposed landscape plan that the applicant has set forward. Because access is limited, so the site here is consistent with UDC standards. The applicant will work with staff on some drought tolerant, water-wise concepts and try to minimize water resources as they develop the site, work with staff. Stepping back a little bit for the access, because access is limited, we are requiring that they provide cross access to the west and to the north. The flexibility that we gave the applicant is we don't want to define a specific location at this time, because as you look at the overall area, the vicinity of the area, there are some large estate lots that surround this property. And so they may redevelop in the future or they may not. But if they do redevelop and other local streets are provided near proximity to the church, then there will be an opportunity for them to tie into that street network or potentially a common driveway in the future to help alleviate and move traffic in the area in the future. At least that's our hope and our goal with that condition of approval. Here is the proposed elevations. One thing that staff did mention in the staff report was the height of the steeple. So under the code, there are some exceptions to allow taller appurtenances for churches and when there's not occupiable space. This particular drawing, it is over what the height is allowed by the zoning code. So the applicant will have to work with staff and adjust his plans accordingly and lower the height of the steeple to, I believe the staff report called out a maximum of 55 feet. So they have been conditioned to do that. They have to do that to meet the height requirements of the zone. So I did look at the public record. I did not see where anyone had provided public testimony on this application. Again, staff is recommending approval of both the annexation and the conditional use permit with the provisions of the DA and the conditions of approval. And I stand for any questions you have on this application.
Commissioner Perot.
Can you bring back up there you go. So it looks like most of the parking there being on that east side, vehicles are going to have to go behind the building to get to that. And there's a real slim area there just on the north. Curious if you had conversation with the applicant about how the vehicles are going to move past one another. Is that wide enough for two vehicles, whatnot?
So Madam Chair, Commissioner Perot, yes, per code, the minimum is 20 feet to allow for two-way traffic. So that is more than adequate to allow for two-way traffic.
Would the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you, Bill. Johnny Watson, 1152 Bond Avenue, Rexburg, Idaho. I'm not going to bore you with a whole bunch of details, but Bill hit the nail on the head when he said we have worked on a lot of different scenarios to try to make this fit. You know, ignorance is never an excuse or the city's, problem to resolve. But when you're working with a big corporation, a lot of times these properties are just sitting in a database and somebody says, oh, we've got 5 acres in Meridian and we desperately need a building. It'll work great. But the reality of this particular parcel, I think, Teeny, if I just arrow down, that's going to get me where I'm going.
Try the left or right arrows and There's a little bit of a lag, so if you give it a second,
Okay.
there you go.
So they don't always really dig into deep of what the effect is. So it looks like you have this nice big lot, but then when you actually boil down to it and you talk to our friends where dreams die at ACHD, that we all of a sudden, they give us this roundabout to put on there, and we start to give back 50 feet of right of way on two sides. Then we add the footprint of the roundabout, and we had to wait till, I think in December, when they had a hearing or something to decide if it was going to be 2 lanes or 1 lane. Found out it was going to be 2, so that crunches us a little bit. And we've had 2 pre-application meetings with staff, and they were just very helpful and we did our very best to try to get this building to address the roundabout. And the owner uses a standard building, and without doing a custom building, it becomes way too wide and too much to get it towards that roundabout and comply with let's say the feel good portions of our, of the unified code of, let's get the parking behind the building. Let's give the building nice street presence, And so we did a lot of scenarios that we presented to the owner, and in order just to get their patrons in this building, this ended up being the very best we could do. Now, we recognize that we have a lot of parking on that east side. And so what we did is we looked at the landscape ordinances for the 25-foot buffer. And our initial approach may be incorrect because Bill mentioned that we need to work maybe on some more drought tolerant things. But we really tried to boost up that buffer to help make that still a very pedestrian friendly, very nice buffered area around the landscape around there, and still give you a really good streetscape and get close to the, I have some just really quick, images, but, and we'll still work with staff, but our intent, is, I just want to show you is that we recognize that we have challenges to overcome, and the city has objectives that they want to achieve in this kind of streetscape for their citizens and visitors. And our goals are aligned. It's just we're trying to get this thing to fit and get you a roundabout too. The one question, and I probably should have asked Nick or Bill beforehand, that's a little puzzling to me is we're allowed 55 feet is a maximum height, and your unified code actually allows appurtenances. I never can say that word, Bill. An exemption of 20 feet. So I actually could put I could actually build a building 55 feet tall with an appurtenance 20 feet above that, which is shorter than what we are proposing. So I'll work through that with Bill, but at least it seems to me that I could actually go higher if we wanted to, according to your ordinance.
Is that true?
Madam Commission members of the commission, I don't have the code memorized, but the maximum height in the R8 district is 35 feet. And typically when we have appurtenances, it can go up to 20 feet above the maximum height. So that's where it's 35 feet to the building and then additional 20 feet for the appurtenance, which gets us the 55.
So I have to misunderstand because in Nick's staff report, he said 55 feet was the maximum, and I read that as,
Yeah,
I
that's
did.
at the top of the steeple.
right, so.
Sorry, that is the top of the pertinence.
So
not the building.
I was incorrect, so I retract that. So thank you.
Are you committed to the 65 feet or can you, or 69 feet? Or are you amiable to the 55 feet?
We are dying to build a building.
Okay,
Well, they really need a building, so that's probably the least,
worry,
the
okay,
least worry that they have, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any other comments?
No, I'm good.
I do have a question for you before I pass it on to Commissioner Stoll. Did you have a neighborhood meeting?
Yes,
And how do your neighbors that are adjacent to your backyard feel about your property?
well, we had it back in March and I just barely got out of the hospital because I was beat to death by them. And no, I'm kidding. We did have a neighborhood meeting, and most of them I recognize that are here. I thought it was a really good meeting. We had some really good dialogue, talked about, concerns. I think most of us all share the same concern, which is the impact of the roundabout. And I felt like we did our best to show that we were going to be a complement to the neighborhood. We do understand that, on Sunday, we do create a lot of traffic compared to maybe a little more quieter use or something, but we don't have much as on the weekday. And we recognize that there already is currently a traffic issue. So we apologize for that, but I appreciated the time to be able to talk and meet with them. So we'll see if they agree.
And then until there is actual different access points, is your client open to having traffic control to be able to move people in and out of that building?
Yes.
After Sunday
Yeah,
service?
that is correct. The other question is, we don't know what the schedule is for the roundabout, if it's 3 years, 4 years, right? If we would be able to have an access that we could then, when the round, maybe one on Linder to help disperse the traffic right now until the roundabout comes, and then we remove it as per their guidelines.
Yeah. Commissioner Stoll, did you have a question?
Excuse me. So are you amenable to staff's recommendation regarding cross access if
Yes.
development occurs at a later date?
Yes, that really, based on the ACHD's documents, their requirements, that's really our only option of future relief.
And have you brought up the idea of temporary access to ACHT?
At this stage, we're not getting past what the manual says.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
So given the site, the constraints,
Mhm.
can you just share, just out of curiosity, share a little bit more about why this is such an ideal location versus finding somewhere else for the church?
Your community is growing at such a rate. And I'm doing another facility that I wish was annexed in, that I would be annexing into your community, that's in the county, just right over on where McDermott used to be, that I'm going through sewer and water, well issues in a NP study area, and it is a disaster. These types of facilities really need to be on municipal systems. And to find property like that available in the area that the facilities needed is nearly impossible.
Was this land donated?
I don't know that. I'm sure it was,
Okay.
but
Because the one on, at McDermott, that's across the street from my house, the Rice family, Elder Rice donated those 5 acres to the church, and that's why that one's there. I don't know, Victory and Linder, if that land was donated
But we,
specifically for the church.
we had our neighborhood meeting at the one over on, I can't think of the road, a mile to the east or whatever. But yeah, this stake, what they call it, is just busting at the seams, and
Right.
they're just begging me to get this thing built for them, so.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant before we take public testimony? All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Cindy Bird.
Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Bird. And
Just in the microphone, please.
thank you. My name is Cindy Bird and we live at 1570 West Victory Road, Meridian.
Okay, thank you.
And we are straight across there from Linder to these guys. And so my concern is that, and I understand that they're losing part of their property for the roundabout eventually. Myself and our other neighbor apparently would lose our homes.
Oh,
And so, you know, I understand Stephen Mortensen deeded the property to the LDS people.
okay.
And like I said to the LDS people, you could have sold it to the county or to ACHD, but I understand that they want to build their church, serve their people, and I do understand that, but we don't like losing our homes after 30, almost 40 years.
Right. Have you talked to ACHD?
When this all started, we
Okay.
did. We sent letters, we did, and we thought they were doing the roundabout with just one, but it actually cut with the two, it cuts the corner of our house off.
Okay.
So, and if that's something that we need to do, again, we came to City Hall when they first started all this.
Right.
And 5 years ago when they were going to do it in 2025, so in 2020. And we pleaded our case and so did our neighbors.
The city is not in charge of the roads, so unfortunately, the fight has to be with the highway
ACHD.
district and continue to do so. We had eminent domain at our place as well, because I'm on USTIC. And the improvements were 6 inches over our house.
Yes.
And so the house was ready to be demolished. Mr. McDermott's house, a historical house here in Meridian.
Yes.
But we were able to negotiate with, at this time, ITD. If we took off the front porch, we would be able to be outside the right of way, so we were able to save the house. Now, the disadvantage is the road is right there, right?
Yeah.
But we were able to save our house. So don't give up, because I'm not sure you'll get what you want, but they could listen, and this could be years away as well, so.
Oh, good, good.
It's just hard to say when that might happen, but our role as commissioners, in this case, it's because it's annexation, we'll go to city council, is to make recommendations for the building, and the developer is not in charge of the roads either.
Exactly.
So we're a little bit limited there as well.
Thank you. So ACHD, and did you say ITD?
So for me, I'm in the impact area of Highway 16.
Okay.
And so ITD owns half of it, and then ACHD owns the other half of it. And so eventually ACHD will have everything except Highway 16. So all the local roads along USTIC and Black Hat and McDermott will all be ACHD. But in the meantime, we get to deal with all of them.
All of
And so, but we were able to save our house
Did
by
you move
just
it back?
adjusting our front porch of being able to take that back. But it was years of negotiations, not weeks,
Okay.
many letters, many meetings. So
Was that with the roundabout?
no, the widening of USTIC to support Highway 16.
All right. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may be clear.
Commissioner Stoll?
So it's ACHD in this situation. ITD doesn't
Right,
have
they are not
anything
in
to do
charge,
with.
Sorry.
ACHD does not, it's ACHD that you have to work with on the roadways here. It has nothing to do with ITD. ITD doesn't have anything to do with that. But the other thing I believe, and Bill can correct me on this, the roundabout is not being caused by the applicant. So
I know.
if the
I
applicant
know, and
applicant has no
yeah.
influence on the
Yeah, we
roundabout.
talked to them.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to be clear.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, we have Ed Bird.
Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Ed Bird, 1570 West Victory,
Thank you.
Meridian, Idaho. I have two things. Number one, all these pictures show two entrances, exits and in and out. And I understand you've only approved one. And number two, how unusual or usual is it for the city to annex in something that's not adjacent to city property?
We will look into that.
Because everything else is county except for the big Corey Barton development on the southeast corner that you guys brought into the city.
So you're across the street and you're county.
Yeah, 40 acres of county.
Okay. And you're saying that the parcels behind the church are also county?
Yes, that was 80 acres and they developed that into 5-acre lots.
Okay, so if it's adjacent, there could be a street in between the adjacency.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be property line to property line. There could be a street in between. So are you saying Corey Barton has a parcel across the street?
Yes, it's cattywampus to it. It's southeast. Yeah, southeast, and where there's northwest.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll double check on that.
But the thing that gets me is, which one do we believe, the one entrance or the two? And
Right
if
now.
you've
we
only
believe the
approved one,
entrance. Yeah.
then make them put the plan show one.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, and that'll be done before city council.
okay. Any questions?
Nope,
Thank
we're
you.
good. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, we have Robert S.
Good evening. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
It's Bob or Robert Shulkoff, 2690 South Ariel Lane in Meridian. I'm here to represent about 7 people here today, not with a bone of contention, but simply an issue that happened in 2025 during the excavation of the Steve Mortensen property. We're owners of the 5-acre parcels that you see up on the map here. We're a little north and just slightly west of that. During the deconstruction or leveling out of the property, they damaged the irrigation pipes. The unfortunate part of this property is there's an irrigation line that runs diagonally, almost I think where that church is about to be built. And we all have 5 acres. Some of it is produced with animals, some of it's farming, mild farming, and we're concerned about the water. During the excavation of the property, the line that feeds our irrigation was destroyed. We couldn't, at no fault of anybody that I'm aware of. I heard that there was a neighborhood meeting. We weren't aware of it. But we were without water for about a month. At our expense, we put replacement irrigation pipe in so we could get water. We would like to get reimbursed for that. It's about $18,000. The other primary or major issue is we are long-term residents. I've been there for 32 years, plan on staying there. Access to water is going to be important when they do that construction. What we put in there for a line is not going to be adequate for what they're planning on building. It was to get us by for the season. So I'm requesting 2 things. I'm requesting to get reimbursed for the cost that is incurred because of the demolition. And also we would like to be part of the planning of the routing of that irrigation line and the construction of it so we can get our access to our water. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Thomas L.
Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Sure. It's Thomas Lemonager, and I live at 2114 West Aspen Cove Drive. And I'm kind of talking about the same thing that Robert did. We were without water last spring for about, I think it was over a month. And I'm more concerned about what's going to happen in the future with this. You know, what can there be perhaps a condition put on the CUP that recognizes our line and that it will be recognized in whole, and that it be maintained as well. So we don't want this to happen again, basically. You know, we went through this a month and a half without water last spring. So I think everybody's really concerned about what's going to happen. And the drawings show a parking lot over the diagonal layout of the pipe, and how is that going to be maintained? How is it going to be operational? And how are we going to live without irrigation if it's hit again during construction? And during the planning, it should be recognized.
And is the irrigation for the land? It's not for your home. You're on well and septic?
Right, it's for the land, landscaping, trees and bushes and that kind of thing.
Okay, we will address that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we have Patrick, is it Marone? One's here. John Fitzgerald.
Okay, thank you.
Rich Thayer.
You're okay? Okay, thank you.
And Meg Thayer.
You're good? Okay.
No one else has signed up.
Anybody online? Would the applicant like to come forward to address some of the neighborhood concerns, please?
Thank you. The images that they're seeing on the screen were from our pre-application meeting. It was before ACHD chopped one of our legs off. And so if you look at the images that are actually in packet, they only show one access. I also have given my personal contact to Bob, and I'm not on behalf of the owner, but as a consultant for the owner, I will take care of the needs. I'll make sure that they're smiling when we're done.
Okay, and if you can make sure you give your card to Thomas as well, because he has irrigation concerns.
Yep.
And so what is the plan for managing irrigation if there's going to be a parking lot on top of it?
So if you, in the packet, the irrigation canal also has their comments, and we have to address those items also. So if they have if it's a deeded ditch or whatever, we can't impede their water rights.
Right.
And so we'll work with them to make sure that that's legally established back to where it needs to be.
Okay, and then my only other recommendation is when you go to council that the pictures of your application are current with just showing the one entrance.
Will do.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant before we close the public hearing? Thank you very much, Johnny. May I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
How about a second?
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for the Stake Center at Victory and Linder. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. You know, like I said before, the Stake Center at McDermott Road and Ustick is being built right now. And that's a challenge as well because McDermott is a dead end. I'm actually kind of excited for a church to be my neighbor. I am not worried about a huge impact on traffic because it is short term and it is sporadic. limited to certain days. So, knowing I am not a member of the church, but I have gone to different stake centers over the years, and I feel that the way they landscape and manage their property and how they build everything has been very thoughtful, and they want to be a good neighbor. So they're challenged with the restrictions that ACHD is putting on front of them. So I don't feel that they should be held accountable for road improvements that they don't have control over. The ultimate question for city council is that, is this in the best time for the city to annex this property and build this church? That's going to be the question when you approach city council. So because is this one going to be on sewer and septic, or is it city water? So sewer and septic. So you're annexing in from the county when there's not full services out there. So that'll be the ultimate question from council. The fact that they're going on septic and sewer by us and staying in the county is fine. I know you have challenges as a builder, but I do know that most of the stake centers are busting at the seams, and they do need more facilities to be able to manage their congregation as well. So I'm in support of this project to forward it to city council for annexation. And hopefully some of the questions from ACHD can be answered by the neighbors. And neighbors, if you do have questions, you're also invited to go back to city council and address those as well.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, I'm also in support of this. I think there's also something to that I want to make sure we speak to regarding some of the maybe requested conditions that generally fall outside the purview of the commission. Things like reimbursement, and kind of legal recognitions, et cetera. Those are all things that I hope are handled appropriately, et cetera, but this isn't really the forum that can decide. We can't make anyone reimburse anyone in this venue currently. So obviously, that can, I encourage the applicant and the neighbors to work that out. But that kind of belongs on outside of this forum, or God forbid in a court of law, rather than here. And the same goes for the actual, property lines, et cetera. Those are things that we have the code and, platting and the law to set forth, but this body can't actually decide, those kind of more legalistic issues. As for the property itself, and the application itself, I think, I have some slight concerns with the traffic flow. I don't love the risk of it backing up onto, I don't love the single failure point with just having that one entry exit that goes into behind the church. I don't know that there's anything the applicant could change about the actual application to mitigate those issues. I think this is an ACHD issue. This is a surrounding development issues. So for those reasons, I'm in support of this. I know it's a little bit, there's some questions around timing, but I don't think the issues are sufficient enough to make me feel this is not the right time.
Right.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
Really appreciate the applicant's willingness to receive feedback and work with the neighbors. Sometimes we don't get that much of a willing attitude. I realized that Boise County Irrigation District didn't send their conditions until about less than a month ago. So probably not a lot of opportunity to reach out to the neighbors with that, but those conditions are pretty clear about how to work with the neighbors in regard to whether their irrigation services are being compromised. And I think that city council will likely want to have a further conversation to make sure those conditions have been substantially figured out before they make a decision on annexation. And so I do want to say, in terms of timing, once the Linder Road overpass is completed, I think that there's going to be a lot more pressure on Linder Road, and I think you're going to see that roundabout, then there's going to be some movement to get that done. I mean, nothing happens fast, right? But that being said, that roundabout is going to allow for that traffic because now you don't have a stop there. Your cars are just going to, flow through and it could back up in that entrance, especially since, as Commissioner Smith shared, you have to kind of go around this small little space in the back to get to the east parking. I'm not as concerned about the kind of stacking on Victory Road, because even when this area develops with subdivisions, and it will once the Linder Road overpass is open, that's going to literally open the floodgates. It's still a Sunday morning. And I think even with a lot of cars, that's just the lowest traffic time with the exception of overnight that there is. So I'm not that worried about that. So that's everything.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Stoll?
I'm generally supportive of the application. I appreciate the neighbors coming out and testifying. I think the areas on irrigation, as pointed out, are covered by the irrigation company's district's conditions. The traffic flow internally does cause me concern, but we live with the limitations that are provided to us by the highway district.
Right.
So with that, I'll support the application.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I can't add more to what my fellow commissioners and yourself have voiced, so.
Add a little more, give motion.
Absolutely. Madam Chair,
Commissioner Justamito.
I'd like to make a motion for after considering all staff, applicant and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of file number H-2026-0016 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of July 2nd, 2026, without any modifications or conditions, right?
Second.
Bill, we don't have to add any modifications, correct? All right, then we've got a
Beautiful.
second. It's been moved and second to approve the Victory Stake Center. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's do one more and then we can take a little bit of a break. So item number 5 is H 2026-0020. CSHQA requests a conditional use permit for a 5,000 square foot building at 3514 Louise Drive. And when you're ready, we will begin with the staff report.
I'm ready. Are you ready to keep listening?
We're ready.
Perfect. Madam Chair, members of the commission. Last item I'm covering this evening before I turn the mic over to Sonia is the Meridian Office Building CUP, as you mentioned. This is one of those instances where we have zoning in place, but a previous approval has required your action tonight. So the CUP that was approved in 2000, this property was approved through a PUD, planning and development, back in 2005. As part of that requirement, every lot within this area, this development is required to get a detailed CUP approval. So although we have zoning in place, the use the applicant's proposing is good. The DA and the CUP requires your consideration tonight. So that's what we're here to talk about. As you mentioned, or you see here on the screen, the future land use map does show this area is designated as mixed use community. Again, this is part of a larger plan unit development that has a mix of uses. The office, the employment that is proposed on the lot this evening is consistent with the overall land use designation. Access to this site is provided from a shared driveway that ties into the local street network, which is Touchmark. Believe it runs along the southern boundary there. So there's a cross access easement in place for that. Here's the applicant's proposed site plan. You can see here there's a 5,000 square foot building along with the associated parking and landscaping. One item that popped up in the staff report, when this property was subdivided in 2005, the plat created a 20-foot wide public utility and irrigation easement along the west boundary of the site. As you can see here on the site plan, the building is encroaching within that 20-foot PUDI easement. And so the applicant is going to be required to vacate a portion of that easement in order to allow that building to be constructed as it's proposed in front of you. So staff has conditioned the applicant to do that. So they'll have to go through a public hearing process and go to city council for them to take action on that reduction. On the site, the parking for the site does exceed the UDC standard. So it's a 5,000 square foot building. So 10 is required. They're providing 15 on the site. I did look at the public record before I came to the hearing tonight. There was no public testimony on this item. Staff is recommending approval with conditions in the staff report, and I'll stand for any questions you may have.
I do have a question. So this is a conditional use permit. This building has not been built yet, correct?
That is correct. They need your permission to start construction.
Okay. And so what are they going to city council for utility?
Yes, if they have been conditioned to vacate that easement, and as part of that, a vacation application requires council action.
Okay.
So nothing you have to worry about tonight. The condition's in there. They're just accepting of that condition and realize there's another application they need to process with the city in order to encroach or provide a 10-foot setback along that boundary.
Okay, but this commission is approving the conditional use permit?
Just the conditional use permit, and they'll come back with an application at a later date.
Gotcha. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot.
I didn't notice in the file any indication of what the end user would be, but if by some chance those parking spaces are not enough, is there any overflow area in that general vicinity for some other of the office spaces or Touchmark or?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, not that I'm aware of. I know the easement that goes around the road there is an only for ingress, egress easement and utility easement. So again, these are each individual lots. Usually when we act on this, we make sure that the site is adequately parked per UDC standard. So I am not aware of a shared parking agreement, and I'm not sure if the applicant does either. But most of the lots that they're over the last couple of years, we're starting to see this area pick up. There's been a couple CUPs, and each one that this body has acted on has met their minimum parking standards, if not exceeded the parking standards.
The applicant like to come forward? Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, that would be great.
My name is Ryan Hart. I'm with CSHQA. We are located at 200 Broad Street, Boise, Idaho.
Yep.
As stated before, we are on 3514 East Louise Drive. We are in a low impact business, and the occupancy of our business of the building is a Group B occupancy, falling in line with the zone. Like stated before, we have 15 parking stalls, one of those being an ADA, whereas code only requires us to have 10 of those. So we are already exceeding the parking standards, as well as on the floor plan, we have 10 offices. So we're not expecting to see more than the anticipated 15 people coming in, even if people are visiting the office itself. We are currently working through talking with the public utilities to get their vacation letters for all of the utility, and we're seeking to relinquish 11 feet of that 20-foot easement for our building.
Okay.
And yeah, I want to thank again for the commissioners taking the time, and I'll stand for any questions.
Commissioner Gelsomino?
Madam Chair, Ryan, thank you for for coming up tonight. Do you know how far along the process of obtaining those relinquishment letters?
Yeah, we've reached out to all of the utility companies. We've received a number of vacation letters already, and we're seeking to get the rest of them soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, no one has signed up.
And no one online? Brian, did you want to add anything else? Or are you good? Okay. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing on Meridian Office. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. It seems pretty straightforward. It's an infill project of land. It seems like there's a pre-requirement from years ago that any building that's going to go into this area has a conditional use permit. Sounds like they're going through the motions to make sure that they get the utility issues squared away before they start construction. And you're obviously aware that you have to go to city council for that condition or waiver as well. Anybody else have any concerns with this application or comments?
No concerns.
No.
Commissioner Sandoval, I don't keep forgetting you're there, but out of sight, out of mind. Do you have any comments in regard to this application?
Madam Chair, nothing further on this one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that in mind, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2026-0020 as presented the staff report on the hearing date of July 2nd
Second,
with no modifications.
still second.
Okay. It's been moved and second to approve file H 2026-0020. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have one more application, but why don't we take a 3 to 5 minute break and then we will finish the last one. Thank you. All right, let's finish our last application, if everyone's ready. Item H 2026-0010, Regency of River Valley requests a modified development agreement and a conditional use permit for phase 3 of their development. And we will start with the staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. The application before you tonight is a request for a conditional use permit. There is a concurrent development agreement modification application with this, but that does not require commission action, only city council. This site consists of 2.57 acres of land. It's zoned CC and CG and is located at 3270 East River Valley Street, northeast of the North Eagle Road, State Highway 55 and East River Valley Street intersection. I'll go through a little history on this property. There are 2 existing development agreements in effect that govern future development of the subject properties. The existing approved development plan for the northern portion of the property is a 3-story self-service storage facility. And the existing approved development plan for the southern part of the property is retail, which is option A. So the storage facility here and the elevations, they're included in the development agreement here on the left. The ones for the property on the southern portion of the property, the option A retail building is here in the middle. And then the option B is on the right side. The option B is the is for the western portion of the southern portion of the site has developed with a small retail building as shown on that concept plan. But the drive-through restaurant that's also shown has not developed, and that is where the southern portion of this site is located. There are 2 previous development agreement modifications for Regency at River Valley Phase 3 multifamily development that were denied for this property in 2021 and 2022. The application in 2021, it's shown there on the left, was for 134-unit, 5-story multifamily residential apartment building with podium parking on the first floor. This application was denied by council due to not having the access with some of the contiguous properties to the north adequately flushed out, issues with traffic and parking and associated traffic circulation, and their belief that it wasn't the right time for the city to approve the modification. The application in 2022 is shown on the right there. It was for 128-unit, 5-story multifamily apartment building with podium parking on the first floor. The city council found this application was not in the best interest of the city because the proposed multifamily development would exacerbate existing traffic access and circulation issues affecting the adjacent apartment complex, nearby roadways, and emergency response, while the applicant failed to demonstrate that the proposed change from the previously approved self-service storage facility use was a superior development or justified modifying the existing development agreement. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation for the property is mixed use regional. The purpose of this designation is to provide a mix of employment, retail, residential dwellings, and public uses near major arterial intersections. The applicant is proposing a modification to the existing development agreements to remove the subject property from the existing agreements and enter into a new agreement with a change to the approved development plans and use to an 88-unit multifamily residential development in 2 4-story buildings, 44 units in each building. A conditional use permit is requested contingent upon council's approval of a modification to the development agreements for approval of an 88-unit multifamily residential development in the CC and CG zoning districts on 2.57 acres of land. This development is proposed to be constructed in 1 phase and be an expansion of the existing Regency at River Valley multifamily development directly to the east of this property. A right-in, right-out access is proposed at the southern boundary of the site via East River Valley Street with shared access with the multifamily development to the east for access via Records Avenue and the full access on that site via River Valley. So I'll just show you real quick here. This is the access that's proposed with this application, right in, right out. And then this is an overall plan showing the existing development and proposed development. The existing full access driveway to phase 1 is right here. And then again, this is the proposed driveway here. If approved, an emergency access easement will be required through the property to the north for access via Eagle Road due to the height of the proposed structures, which will likely reduce parking for the site below the minimum required amount, necessitating additional changes to the site plan. Alternatively, fire department may determine that this existing access that runs from Eagle Road down through here and goes in here may be adequate. Discussions are still going on with the applicant and the fire chief on that matter. So not sure if he'll accept that or not. The last comments to me were that they needed access from the north here. A 35-foot wide street buffer is required along Eagle Road and State Highway 55, which is an entryway corridor, with a 10-foot wide detached multi-use pathway. The buffer is, it might be a halted. The buffer is required to comply with the enhanced buffer standards in the UDC for entryway corridors. Noise abatement is required by the UDC for residential uses along a state highway. An 8-foot tall precast sound wall is proposed within the street buffer along North Eagle Road, State Highway 55, on top of a 2-foot tall berm. A cross-section of the street buffer was submitted as shown there in the bottom right. Because the berm and wall will not be tall enough to buffer the second, third, and fourth stories from the adjacent state highway, staff is recommending the structures incorporate sound attenuating construction materials and design features to decrease the interior noise levels inside the building if the use is approved. Common open space is proposed as shown on the plan on the right there, consisting of half the street buffer along Eagle Road, linear open space containing a pedestrian pathway, and a couple larger open space areas. The UDC requires at least one common grassy area to be integrated into the site design, allowing for general activities by all ages, and that all common areas are not less than 400 square feet in area and have a minimum length and width dimensions of 20 feet. The large common area at the north end of the site, it's that kind of green turquoise area, appears to meet the 5,000 square foot requirement. However, it's encumbered by a dog park, water feature, and sitting area, and is not an open grassy area as required. Other linear open space areas appears to be under the minimum 20-foot dimension requirement. If approved, staff recommends an overall open space exhibit that includes phases 1 and 2 is submitted that demonstrates compliance with this standard for the overall development, since residents will have access to all common areas and amenities through a shared use agreement. Site amenities are proposed consisting of a dog park from the quality of life category, a water feature with a seating area from the open space category, walking trails from the recreation category, and 2 charging stations for electric vehicles are proposed from the multimodal category in accord with UDC standards. Off-street parking is required to be provided based on the number of bedrooms per unit. A minimum of 143 spaces are required and proposed to be provided. With the changes to Phase 1 to allow for cross-access drives, 9 spaces will be removed. A parking analysis prepared for the overall site indicates a total of 11 fewer spaces than required will be provided in the existing portion of the development if this development is approved. If approved, staff recommends revisions are made to the site plan to accommodate the additional required spaces on this site in order to comply with the minimum parking standards for the overall development. Conceptual building elevations were submitted as shown for the proposed structures with building materials consisting of stucco and fiber cement board and batten siding with stone veneer accents. Final design is required to comply with the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. An exhibit was also submitted showing the west facade facing Eagle Road with 1-year trees and fence, with 10 years and without trees and fence. No written testimony was received from the public on this application. Staff is recommending denial due to many of the same circumstances still existing that were previous reasons for denial by City Council of a multifamily development on this site, including intensification of existing traffic, access, and circulation issues along East River Valley Street. Other reasons for denial are the proposed 4-story building height and form doesn't adequately transition to existing single-story commercial development along the Eagle Road corridor, concern pertaining to appropriateness of high-density residential uses immediately adjacent to a state highway and major transportation corridor, related to quality of life and the health and well-being of future residents due to vehicle emissions and noise exposure. and inadequacy of the buffer to residential uses along a state highway due to the height of the structures. For these reasons, staff is of the opinion the current entitlement of an indoor storage facility is a more appropriate use than the proposed multifamily development, and is of the opinion it's not in the best interest of the city to modify the existing development agreement as proposed. Staff will stand for any questions. The applicant is here to present tonight.
Would the applicant like to come forward? Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Cedar Jordan, 11650 South State Street, Draper, Utah.
Oh, what, sorry, what's your first name?
Cedar,
Cedar. Okay, thank you.
thank you. Yeah, so really, Sonia's been involved with this project I'm fairly new at this company, but she's been involved in all of these that have gone forward. And I think a couple things that have changed since we've come along is the property to the north is now developed, and we have a cross-access easement now, and it's paved access to get out to Eagle Road from that north side now. I don't think the fire marshal we just got a letter from the fire marshal saying we had some concerns there. So we're not sure that he was aware of that access or a cross-access easement. So that is a change or a condition that was new now. I think that also part of, is this property stabilized, and there was at the time interest obviously with the storage units and all the other things, but with the growth of your city, I think that's why a few years ago they started looking at, hey, let's increase the phase, get more units on this phase and keep it going. And when we look at the traffic, there is a traffic study, which we do have a traffic consultant online if we need to have any technical questions. But one of the comments was that the use of the residential is less impactful than if it was actually a true commercial restaurant. For example, a 2,500 square foot drive-through restaurant would increase ADTs and all kinds of other impacts, AM, PM type of thing. So just from a traffic standpoint, converting it back to an apartment complex would reduce traffic compared to the approved use. Although I will have to say that the storage units also have a kind of an odd traffic pattern than most commercial, but the transition, the Eagle Road is a corridor. I think we've measured the height, I think, of the current facade or the parapet for the 3-story, and I think we're at 42 feet. I think this building's at 52 feet, and then the adjacent buildings next to us, or at least the mattress firm with a parapet, is at 26 feet or 25 feet. So there is a transition that jumps, but it does now to the parapet of the storage units from 25 to 42. And this would also just increase it up to the 52. So yeah, if there's anything I can answer.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Perot?
Did I hear you correctly that you have physical access to the north and legal access to the north? And so is that going to be like a right turn only onto Eagle Road from there?
Yes.
Is that going to be a public street that goes in, that
existing
comes
now.
from Eagle Road to?
Sorry, go ahead.
Is that a public street that comes from Eagle Road into the development?
That I don't know. There is a cross-access easement put together with BGI, which I think is a developer at the time, and ourselves for that. I'm not entirely clear on if it's not a public. But there is an existing recorded cross-access easement between both property owners. Is that the question?
Not exactly.
Okay.
And I've kind of had a little bit of hard time hearing you, sorry.
Oh.
So you have that, kind of drive aisle that goes along the east side of the property, right? And it doesn't really go up into another, it goes up into another development, but there's intended to be a road that runs to the south of that development. And in the last application, it wasn't determined whether that road, if it was a public road, if it was a private road, if that road would even be there, and whether, there would be access for this property or not. And so I just want to understand specifically is there an intention of that applicant, at least, it's been a while since I've been there, so from the photos that's on here, it still shows bare land up there.
Okay.
And so I want to understand if you have physical access, and is that a private road that just exists for the, yep. So if you were to head straight north on that little drive aisle to the east, will there be access to the left? If you were to be able to turn left, there was at the last application, there was supposed to be a determination of whether there was access there on the north side of Copper Canyon.
The copper.
Is that what you are referring to, or are you referring?
No, no, there's
have
one further
crosswalks.
to the, there's one further to the east. If you, can I point or Sonia or is, okay, okay. So, sorry for the lag. So this is the northern access that I'm speaking of, and that created, once this property to the north developed, and it has developed, the parties entered into a cross-access easement for cross-access for both parties to come through that north access. Not from, there is not a north access from this phase, if that's your question. You would egress out of this parking lot, go north and then east and out here, and could go out here or go out
And you
to,
won't be able to go directly north.
Looks like you have to kind of S curve around.
that's right, that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. So is my cursor showing? Okay, so yeah, you have to come out this building will have to egress here and can go right and go south and go to River Valley, or it'll go north or wrap around here and then come back out here out to Eagle.
Okay.
Does that?
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Is the property that's developed north, is that the Copper Canary jewelry store and the Raising Cane's and the oil change place?
It is.
It's all there now?
Yes.
And then are those apartment buildings, or is that a hotel behind there at the east side of that property? Behind the second phase of
Yeah,
Regency
those are apartments.
apartments, okay. All right, any other questions for the applicant before we check with public testimony?
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, so some of the staff analysis or the staff report talks about being underparked, and some of the modifications needed will actually, I think, maybe remove some parking on phase 1 or 2 immediately adjacent. Can you speak to that? Can you speak to the parking plan? How you're going to address that parking need not be underparked?
Yeah, I think so. Part of the specific code that I haven't talked to Sonia about or understood how it's calculated is the for the if you are located near mass transit kind of facility, which there's bus stops there, and I didn't know if that's a calculation that could come in and help reduce the 11 deficit.
Okay.
Did you have any more?
I guess I did have one question regarding the walking trails. Can you help me understand where those walking trails are in this application? I asked because I don't in my head, I don't necessarily think.
Is there a way to go to the renderings?
It should be on.
Cedar, did you have those in your presentation?
I think, yes.
Okay, let me switch back to yours.
Yes.
Sorry, just a moment.
Sorry, I'll try to speak up though, or enunciate a little bit better.
The trails mostly wrap around to the west and north side. This is the northwest side. Does that make sense?
Got it. So it's general interconnectivity between
That's right.
units.
That's right.
Okay. Go for it.
Commissioner Pearl,
So, talked about the sharing of amenities.
you have to turn your mic on.
I apologize. I have a question about the sharing of the amenities. So just the type of amenities that they are and the location that they are, I don't anticipate a lot of residents from the other two phases coming over and using these, but yet those residents will be going over to phase one and phase two and using theirs. So there's really not like a good reciprocity there. So the phase one and phase two residents, how will they be impacted in the use of their amenities? Because I just don't see them coming over and using these like kind of in that back corner.
Yeah, I don't think that the property management, so we have a property management division in the company that manages all of our properties. So it's my understanding that they aren't worried about the cross using or the impact of the existing pool and the fitness center. They are comfortable with what they're proposing. To add the 88 units back in or add another 88 units wasn't a concern to property management.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith,
I have a question for Sonia regarding the kind of mass transit part of code that was referenced regarding the impact on parking calculations. Could you comment on that or fill me in on, is that a possible solution to be compliant, or what does that look like?
Chairman, Commissioner Smith, Commissioners, there is a section of code, parking standard alternatives, 11.3C7. It lists favorable conditions for parking alternatives to off-street parking. One of those includes that there's a transit stop within a quarter mile of the use. So there may be some options there.
Yeah, there's two bus stops, one on the north or on the south side and one on the east side.
It says that when alternative modes of transportation are available, off-street parking may be reduced by an equivalent amount to the demand that is met by the alternative transportation mode as documented in a transportation plan prepared by a registered engineer.
Okay, so we wouldn't be able to figure that out, those numbers out tonight.
No.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith,
I do have, sorry, I'm kind of going down a checklist. I do have one question that came up, which was regarding the use of trees for sound abatement, et cetera, on the side of Eagle. Is that accounting for the power lines that are currently there? I guess it's hard to kind of understand from that 2D perspective. Is there adequate depth for those, or can you help me understand?
Well, I think there's adequate height. I'm not sure that where exactly underneath we sit under that transmission line.
Yeah, well, I asked because I think the transmission lines, they don't seem super high up, and just in reference to this being 4-story building, you have trees that are shown to go 3 or 4 stories tall, seem to be pretty sizable.
Yeah.
Landscaping. So I want to just make sure that we're accounting for those power lines.
So that's fair. I think I'd have to look at the overlay to see how the power line runs underneath there or where it runs in the right of way.
Okay.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Perry Coles.
Yep. Hi, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Perry Coles. I represent East River Valley Street, the owner of Copper Canary property. To give you a little bit of history behind this, it may help you a little bit. We we originally owned the piece of property next to the mattress firm. And that's where we were going to build Copper Canary originally.
Okay.
What we found is that the access was so bad coming off of East River Valley Street because there's a median that was put in because of the highway. It literally was impossible to get anybody to our property except to go through the Regency property and do a U-turn, or go all the way to Records and try to come all the way around. So the reality is it would be nearly impossible to get our customers to come to our property and our store. So we thought long and hard. We actually had plans set up, but we just couldn't seem to get over the access problem and getting people in and out of the property easily. So we then took over the Chinese restaurant and then rebuilt it, and here we are, 3 years later. I totally understand what Bach Homes is going through with this property. It's a very, very difficult property because the access is so bad. What I like, first of all, I am in favor of them in this project, and I'll tell you several reasons why. One is now they're not 5-story, they're 4-story. 4-story is exactly what is behind us with the new apartments.
Okay.
Behind the Raising Cane's, behind now the new vet building. And there's 2 lots left that originally they were talking about putting a hotel in, and I think that went away, and I don't know what's going there now. But they're 4-story right there. So it's really not out of line for what's in the neighborhood right now. And yes, it's a little bit bigger than us. I'm absolutely fine with it. And the fact they've gone to 88 units in 2 buildings. And if you look at the architecture, it's beautiful. I mean, they did a really, really nice job. And the way they fed the traffic and everything back into their development makes a lot of sense. Now, since we redeveloped our property, there's a right turn lane, okay, coming off of Eagle. And I think that's the access or some connection to that road that goes all the way back that meets both apartment complexes to the right and to the left, going east. So the access is really good now. Traffic is minimized, and trying to put any other business in there, I think it's just going to sit empty. I think they've owned it for 10 or 15 years. There's no buyers, nobody wants it, and yet they're now developing a 3rd phase that fits beautifully into what they already have. The amenities are there. And believe me, I have nothing to do with Bach Homes, so they didn't pay me to stand up here.
Okay.
Okay. But it just seems to make common sense what they're developing. Okay. And yeah, I'd like not to have dirt there anymore. It'd be kind of nice. The other, basically, like I said, I'm generally fully in favor of it. I find very few problems with it. The one question I had, and I wasn't sure, and I heard something, Sonia, that you had mentioned, that the buffer wall is at 8 feet or 10 feet? 10 feet, because they are elevated about 2 feet above us too. The elevation of the land. So it puts a 12-foot wall there. So aesthetically and visually to our building, it kind of blocks us out pretty well. I would like to see maybe some kind of change that, if that is possible, if you guys decide or the city council decides to approve it.
Need you to finish up, please.
I'm sorry.
Your time's up, so can you?
Oh, it
finish
is.
up,
I'm
please?
sorry. Okay, then that was my only objection.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Any questions or?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, no one else has signed up.
Would the applicant like to come forward and address Perry's comments, or are you good? You're fine? All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
Seconded.
It's been moved and second to close the public hearing for item 2026-0010 Regency at River Valley Phase 3. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I was by here today. I went to the Habit for lunch today, so I drove down south on Eagle Road to turn on River Valley to go into that development and, went by it. It's a very shallow parcel, so you have your challenges ahead of you, as well as there's no direct access from Eagle Road, which means you have to kind of meander through. Driving from McMillan to River Valley today, I did notice that there are no apartments directly on Eagle Road. Everything is set back for retail more on Eagle than any residential straight up on Eagle Road at this time. That doesn't mean that it couldn't happen in the future, but at this time. I think the other challenge is that this is probably considered infill. And when you're the last guy, you know, in line, everybody's taking up your traffic, right? So you're subject to the traffic conditions that already exist, even though that isn't your problem, but now it is because it's already there. Extending the residential from what the storage was going to be from 3 stories to 4 doesn't seem very drastic. But the transition, I agree with the city planners, the transition from the single story of Mattress Firm to a 4-story seems very dramatic. The open space concept you have in the corner in the back for one of the buildings. So if I was in the building that was further south compared to the north, I wouldn't even feel that that was part of my open space. It seems like it's private for them. And then to cross the parking lot to the pool for the other portion of the property going east seems kind of like a pretty far jaunt. It's a tough spot, like Perry had mentioned, because of the access, and maybe residential might be the answer here, but having it abut against Eagle Road, even with a buffer wall, with the power poles and trees, I don't feel like I can support this particular design of this particular project. I think it could be flipped a little bit, and maybe the parking closer to Eagle Road and the building closer to Regency's, so that you're not right on top of it, with the transition for the Mattress Firm, so that it seems like a different transition, knowing that there are 3-story or 4-story apartment buildings right behind here. So overall, the concept is interesting. I don't feel like it's quite there yet. I lived along Highway 84, and that white noise of that constant traffic is a real thing. And and Eagle Road really doesn't stop. And there's just really how many soundproof walls you have. You're never going to be able to block it out. You're never going to be able to have your window open, because you're always going to have that kind of infestation of whether if it's noise or thumping from a motorcycle or a car or backfire from a vehicle, it's always going to be there. And even though it has the ability to be close to mass transit, I just think if it was flipped a little bit more, it might be a little bit better. But the way this sits right now, I am not in support of this project.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of issues with this, and I think some of them are actually kind of the inverse of yours. I don't know that flipping certain things around would address a lot of the main concerns. I think for me, it's, the ones that jump out are obviously parking. There's parking issues, and there's open space issues. I think the location of open space, the current design of open space is inadequate. It doesn't fit the overall design of the rest of the development it's trying to integrate into. I think we have parking issues that maybe we can address, but by being near transit. I think that there's a big issue with sound mitigation, not knowing if it's going to conflict with power lines. Because if it does, that we lose a big component there on Eagle of being able to mitigate sound. I'm not against residential being more on these kind of larger arterials. I think, and I know we had some disagreement earlier internally of whether this is technically transit-oriented development. But either in spirit or in letter, I am in support of this kind of development for those reasons, either being directly on mass transit or being so close to Kleiner Park and, you know, walking distance to other commercial amenities and retail amenities. I think this is a fine intention to put residential here. I think this existing concept, this existing plan is not fully baked. It's not fully developed. So for me, I can't support it tonight. I don't know if that looks like continuing to a kind of significant extent, if the applicant feels that they're able to kind of rework this in a honestly somewhat significant manner, or if this looks like denying it and letting them take another swing when they're fully ready. I think this is closer than past residential applications on this spot, but I still don't think it's in an area where it's, yeah, I don't think we're just a few tweaks away from this being workable. I'm very in support of this kind of residential, of transit-oriented development. I'm very, not to get ideological, I'm very YIMBY. I like this kind of development and concept. I just, this existing plan just doesn't quite fit. I think that also one thing that sorry, Commissioner Perot, I'm holding me hostage. One thing that I also would like to see more is better interconnectivity to the north to Copper Canary, if that's workable. That would address a lot of my concerns around circulation, having ins and outs, obviously, if that's functional. But so I can't support it tonight. I don't know if that looks like a continuance or if that looks like a denial. That I think I'll love to hear the rest of the commission's thoughts on that.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pearl.
So I've probably heard in the hundreds of applications at this point, and there's just those that just you'd never forget. And that's this one. I remember the 2 hearings and continuances so well on this application, and all the conversation that we had about access. And, you know, it was denied the first time because there wasn't any access to the property to the north. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew there was apartments that were going to be there. And then they came back in and they said, hey, there's going to apartments that are going to be here. We're still working on whether we have cross access with that. And even if we do, is it going to be physically able to go through the north to get out to records? And we fleshed out every possible scenario with it. I do appreciate the applicant putting in very clear walkways through the parking lots, because that was something that was entirely missing. There was no obvious way to get from phase 3 over to phase 2. So that's an improvement that they've made. And I think breaking up the buildings into 2 buildings was really a good thing. But I agree with Commissioner Smith on where the amenities are. It's very isolated. And I don't think that really benefits the residents from the other 2 phases. So I see so much improvement from what was discussed the last time, significant improvement. And I think that any commercial user that would come in there is gonna be more complicated for them, because, you know, not being able to get to your storage unit, or imagine having fast food in there. Like we just had this conversation about drive-throughs. So I don't think that the current entitled use is feasible either. I know phase 1 and phase 2, I've been in that apartment community quite a bit. For the most part, people drive slow through there. Like nobody's racing through. I don't love how little space there is between like in the drive aisles. They're very narrow. So if somebody's backing their car out and you're coming down the drive aisle, there's lots of opportunities for accidents and wrecks. All that to say, I see significant improvements in this, and I'm not entirely opposed to this based on, and I'm not just comparing, you know, what they have a better plan. I'm comparing to really, are they doing the best that they can with the site constrictions that they have? And I don't see any other way that they could make an improve. I mean, we worked this and reworked this and reworked this, and I don't see any other way that they can make any improvements. I don't know if anything's changed, but I remember that Copper Canyon wasn't willing to give them a cross access, and they didn't want folks, you know, parking in their parking lot, and they really didn't want to have a lot of involvement in, I don't know if that's changed or not, but that was something that was a pretty much like off limits kind of thing. My hope is that that drive aisle just very there to the east would be able to go completely through up by Raising Cane's and not have to make a right or go east and head back through and kind of go to the north. But it doesn't sound like that was something that we basically told the applicant, like that would be I mean, if you could get that done, that would be a huge step towards getting approval. And it doesn't sound like that was an option either, but I think for the site constrictions that they have, I'm not entirely opposed to it. I do think there's some tweaks that need to be made, definitely with the amenities. One of them specifically would be, I think that the water feature is great because there's some sound mitigation. I mean, that's nice. It does kind of cut through some of the road noise, but I think it would be better to have more of like a gathering area, like a covered gathering area type of feel where people could, have friends over for a graduation party or something. Instead of just it being like something that's a visual, or, kind of situation. So, I agree. I'm not comfortable voting, in favor right at this moment, but if there was some reworking done on the amenities, I think it would be worth a good second look.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Stoll.
Generally, I like the concept of what they're proposing as far as residential. I have, as commissioners have pointed out, concerns regarding connectivity and internal circulation. I would like to see this continued to allow the applicant to work with staff to come up with some conditions or reworking what they're proposing to come back to us later as opposed to an outright denial. But that's my 2 cents. Keep it short.
We'll have to reopen the public hearing to see if the applicant is open to that or just wants to go on to city council. So if that is what the commission would like, may I get a motion to?
Madam Chair.
Oh, did you want to add?
I
or
was going to say, I'm pretty much in line of giving them another option. So if a continuance is the consensus, then.
Okay, Commissioner Perot.
Do we have to, question for staff, do we need to give them pretty clear, specific things that we want them to bring back? If we're going to continue, do we need to say, hey, these are the things that we want to see when you come back here?
Chairman, Commissioner Pro, Commissioners, yes, please. So that they have clear direction on what to work on between now and then. And please give them adequate time. We do need revised plans within 15 days prior to the hearing. So it will take them a bit to do it, and then we'll need it 15 days prior.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smith.
move to reopen the public hearing.
It's been moved and second to reopen the public hearing for Regency River Valley Phase 3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Cedar, can you come back up, please? What is your preference? Do you feel like if we gave you some direction for a continuance, that would be something that you and your team would be interested in? Or do you want to just go forward to city council?
I'd like the continuance.
You'd like to continue. So, can we give him some direction of things to be able to work on, and then we can look at dates? Does that sound okay?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Smith.
So, I mean, just kind of going off my list and some others that I heard, some were, the landscaping power lines on Eagle, that conflict, figuring out parking, if we can find a way to meet parking, reworking the open space, to integrate better with the rest of the Regency, so there's also the issue of northern cross access to Copper Canary or to another parcel if that's feasible. I also imagine there are kind of draft conditions that we're not considering that staff has in mind. So I would also imagine allowing some time in there for staff to, coordinate with the applicant on any other issues. I don't know if there's any other that I missed.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Pearl?
In the potential reworking of moving, I know that they have done, I don't know how many plans on this, but the idea of moving the parking more towards Eagle Road, I think one of the issues it created was pedestrian access then over to phase 2, where you're trying to like make it feel like this is a cohesive development. And so then if you put the building towards phase 2, then pedestrians are walking kind of around the buildings to the north and the south to get over to the amenities, and more people are getting in their cars. So that was kind of one of the things, but I would like to see, I know we've asked for so many iterations of this and it's been a long time, but I would like to see more possibility of moving the building away from Eagle Road. I think, anybody that's going to rent there, they're going to know there's noise. Like they're going to make an educated decision about whether they want to live there because they're going to know they're on Eagle Road.
Right.
I do think that you'll find a lot of limitations. I think there might be enough people that want to live near the village and stuff that you'll get that. As far as the height of the building goes, I feel like that if you're going to put buildings that high, that's the road you put them on. I don't love it, but I understand you've pared down these buildings like 50 units, and making that pencil is really hard to do. So I would like further further work done not only on the location of the amenities, but also on the type of amenities. I don't think that's too big of a change. But I know, having done multiple hearings, that y'all have already thought through a whole bunch of these scenarios before you even get to us. So we're really, really not trying to make it hard on you. But we do want this, anywhere along Eagle Road right now is like a really critical space for our community. So I just remembered, like stuff's literally coming back to me as we're sitting here about, I don't think that there is a connection that could be made to like straight north, because there was only one way to get over the South Slough. And there was only one way it was going to be bridged, and that was by doing it here in the center part of the other, like the apartments to the east. So I think that I just answered my own question with that. But yeah, just more information, not only like the design, but more information on how the amenities are going to be used between the two complexes would be helpful.
All right, that was a big laundry list. How much time do you think you might need? Madam Clerk, what does our schedule look like for the next couple meetings?
Madam Chair, July 16th, there's already 7 hearings scheduled.
Okay, so that's not an option.
August 6th, there's only 1. And then the other dates after that would be August 20th or September 3rd.
So August 6th or what was the second date in August?
August 20th.
So August 6th or August 20th. So basically August 6th is just shy of or a little bit over a month. And the other one looks like about 6 weeks.
Yeah, let's do the latter.
The August 20th?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a motion to continue phase 3 to August 20th?
So moved. We need a
Do we
longer
need to list
motion
the
than
specific
that.
reasons in the motion? No, we're good enough. Okay. And second.
It's been moved and second to continue application 2026-0010 Regency River Valley Phase 3 to August 20th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Wait, I did that wrong, didn't I?
No?
Do I have to close the public hearing? No, we're good.
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're good.
Oh,
Before we go.
I just remember one thing I was going to ask you. Were you directing staff to prepare conditions of approval? Commissioner Smith or commissioners?
I don't think we did. We asked the applicant to come forward to fix some things.
Okay.
Between now and August 20th, is it appropriate to ask for staff for conditions of approval to work with the applicant?
I would recommend seeing what the applicant brings forward before you make a recommendation and direct staff to prepare conditions of approval, but that is up to you.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner
just to
Smith.
clarify on my end, it wasn't in the motion. But my intention was anything along those lines that tend to find their way in conditions of approval or things that, we can resolve that come to mind. I wanted to leave space for you to anything that you think while we're in the process of these other things that you can resolve. I wanted to leave that kind of space. So you don't need to do conditions of approval. We can look at the rest, but that was kind of the theme of things that I was saying.
Okay, thank
Feel
you
free to
for that
work on.
clarification. Appreciate that.
Okay, Cedar. So
you.
we are good, August 20th. And if you can't remember what we said, this is on public record and you can pull up the minutes and be able to get Commissioner Smith's comments.
Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Can I take one more motion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Gelsomino.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
It's been moved and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?